All right, let's dive into Manaheim Academy. This magic school. Not exactly your typical Hogwarts.
Not at all.
Instead of just sorting by magic ability, they've got these houses, each one kind of designed to help students with like similar personalities and values
Right, right. Like a whole different approach.
really thrive. Yeah. We're zeroing in on the Azure Bears today,
Oh, interesting.
and we've got a mountain of sources like we've got historical records, we've even got descriptions of their common room. So we're going to cover it all.
I'm excited. It's so cool how Manaheim goes beyond just raw magical talent. They get that creating a supportive community is key,
Totally.
especially when you're messing with, the unpredictable nature of magic.
Absolutely. So what's the first thing that jumps out at you about these Azure Bears?
Well, they're always described as practical, reliable, really community-oriented, almost like the mom friend of the houses.
Oh, I love that.
Making sure everyone has their potions in order and all that.
That's a perfect analogy. And their motto, "Together we thrive," really hits that home. It makes you think about the kind of environment they're trying to create. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In a magical setting, reliability and teamwork aren't just like nice to haves.
Right.
They're essential for safety, for
Mhm.
success. Can you imagine trying to cast a complex spell with someone who's constantly forgetting their incantations?
Oh, that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Big yikes.
Yeah, yeah. I'm already getting a sense of how crucial structure and order are to these Azure Bears. But what does that actually look like in their daily lives? Like, walk us through a typical day for an Azure Bear student.
Okay, so their day starts with a really powerful tradition, actually. It's called the Oath of Unity ceremony.
Okay.
So imagine new students gathered, and each one lights their own lantern from a central flame. It's symbolic, right? It represents their commitment to the house. And then they bring all these lanterns together and they form a circle representing, the collective strength of the Azure Bears.
Wow, that's a pretty intense way to start the day.
It is.
You can really feel the weight of that unity and purpose.
Absolutely.
Does this happen every day?
It's mainly for new students, but it really sets the tone for the whole Azure Bear experience. And it doesn't just end there.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. They also have these things called weekly planning circles.
Okay.
So small groups meet up to share their goals for the week, offer support, and hold each other accountable.
So they're not just focused on magical talent, they're instilling practical skills too, like time management and accountability. It's like a built-in study group system almost.
Exactly. And learning magic is demanding, so having that structured support system is huge.
Yeah, I can see that.
It really reinforces that whole emphasis on both individual growth and collective success.
That makes sense. They seem very focused on internal support, but do they ever interact with the other houses?
Oh, they do, and in a big way. The Azure Bears actually host a quarterly Harmony banquet,
A banquet, fancy.
and it's open to the entire school.
Really? That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's this big celebration of, teamwork, shared accomplishments, and really fostering a sense of community across all the houses at Manaheim. It highlights their commitment to harmony, not just within their own group, but within the whole school.
It's like they're trying to be the glue that holds everyone together.
In a way, yeah.
But all this emphasis on unity and structure, it makes me wonder about the kind of leader they have.
Right, well, that brings us to Professor John Slater, head of Azure Bears. He's quite a character.
Oh,
Our sources describe him as a former Templar knight, commanding presence, impeccable sense of order. He even starts each day with a meticulous inspection of the common room.
So we're talking strict and disciplined then.
Yeah.
Not exactly the image of a laid-back, go-with-the-flow professor. Do we know anything about his teaching style?
I'm getting the sense that he's stern but fair, the kind of leader who sets high standards but also provides the structure and support to help his students reach their potential.
It sounds like his leadership style is a perfect reflection of the Azure Bear values: discipline, order, and a deep commitment to excellence. Speaking of order and structure, our sources give us a glimpse into the Azure Bear common room. What stands out to you?
Oh, yeah. The physical space can often reflect the personality of the people who use it.
For sure.
It's fascinating. Well, first of all, it sounds incredibly grand. High ceilings, big arched windows that flood the space with natural light, and there's this amazing wooden loft structure.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
It gives it a really cozy vibe, almost like a treehouse, but sophisticated.
And a treehouse is all about practicality, maximizing space.
Exactly.
It's making me want to see pictures.
Oh, I know, right?
What else does it say?
Well, it mentions plush seating, soft blue and neutral tones, natural elements like plants.
It sounds like a haven of peace and tranquility.
It does, like the perfect place to study or just relax with friends.
Don't tempt me. I might just transfer to Manaheim myself. But we've talked a lot about their internal dynamics. What about their impact on the wider world?
Hmm, that's what's so interesting about them. Their impact extends far beyond Manaheim. They have a long history of significant achievements. And it all ties back to their core values, practicality, responsibility, and a real dedication to the greater good.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more about these achievements. Like, what kind of impact are we talking about?
Well, for starters, the Azure Bears were instrumental in the founding of the Great Accord.
The Great Accord.
Yeah, it was a series of peace treaties that ended some major conflicts in the kingdom's history. They're not just about theory and textbooks, they're out there using their skills to make a real difference.
So they're not just bookworms, they're peacemakers. What else?
Well, they also played a key role in developing the Unified Spell Codex.
Okay, what's that?
It basically standardized magical practices across the entire realm. It's like creating a universal language for spellcasting.
That's huge. So they're not just peacemakers. They're literally shaping the way magic is practiced. I bet Professor Slater's proud of that one. But tell me, are there any, like, famous Azure Bears alumni who are known throughout the magical world?
Oh, absolutely. The list is pretty long.
Yeah, I bet.
But let's highlight a few who really embody that Azure Bear spirit. There's Sir Schwarzwalder, the legendary knight and diplomat who united warring kingdoms. His story sounds like something out of an epic poem.
He sounds like a textbook Azure Bear. Courageous, dedicated to unity, incredibly skilled. It makes you wonder what his time at Manaheim was like. Who else?
Okay, next up we have Clara Scott McBain. She was a healer who founded this huge network of magical hospitals throughout the realm.
Wow.
And she really focused on equal access to care for everyone. It's remarkable.
She sounds incredible. It's like their values just naturally lead them to make the world a better place. Okay, give me one more.
All right, one more. We can't forget about master architect Edward Elfkyle.
Elfkale, okay.
He's known for designing some of the most iconic magical structures in existence. He's actually the mastermind behind the breathtaking symmetry of Manaheim Academy's Central Hall.
Oh, wow. So symmetrical design, attention to detail. It's like their architecture is an extension of their personalities. I'm sensing a theme here. But before we get too carried away with magical architecture, I have to bring up one last name from our source material. And it's a bit of a curveball.
Oh, do tell.
Jeff Hadbucks, founder and CEO of, wait for it, Hadbucks Coffee Shops.
A coffee empire founded by an Azure Bear. That's not what I was expecting.
Right. It's like finding a unicorn in a library.
Ah.
But it does make you wonder, if he brought that same Azure Bear dedication to quality and consistency to his lattes, maybe that's the secret to his success. But speaking of success, I'm curious about how Azure Bears interact with the other houses at Manaheim. It can't all be collaborative banquets and shared successes, right?
You're right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Every house has its own distinct personality and values, and sometimes, those differences can lead to some friction.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's like combining different magical ingredients. Some mixtures create powerful potions, while others might, explode.
Okay, so spill the magical tea. Give me the lowdown on these house rivalries.
Okay, first, we got to briefly introduce the other houses. We've got the Golden Eagles. They're known for their creativity, carefree spirit, always pushing the boundaries. Then there are the Crimson Tigers, ambitious and strategic, sometimes to a fault, always looking for an edge, even if it means bending the rules a little. And finally, we have the Verdant Deer. They're all about idealism and a passion for social change. They're the ones championing new ideas, challenging the status quo.
Okay, I'm picturing this magical version of high school with all its cliques and social dynamics.
Right.
So where do the sparks fly? Which houses clash the most with our Azure Bears?
One of the most notable rivalries is between the Azure Bears and the Crimson Tigers. It's a classic clash of ethics versus ambition.
Interesting. Structure versus, let's just say, flexibility.
Exactly.
So the rule following Bears butt heads with the bend the rules to win Tigers.
You got it.
I can already see the drama unfolding. Do these rivalries ever spill over into the classroom?
Oh, absolutely. Our sources specifically mention tensions in academics. Azure Bears, like we've been talking about, excel in those structured theoretical subjects like history, law, and magical theory.
Makes sense?
Subjects where there's a clear right and wrong answer.
Yeah, those subjects require discipline, attention to detail, and a respect for established rules. All classic Azure Bear strengths. So what about the Crimson Tigers?
They tend to shine in areas that require more creative problem solving and strategic thinking. Subjects like battle strategy, advanced spell creation, even magical economic.
Oh, so it's a real battle of the brains.
Yeah.
Do these classroom clashes ever lead to anything explosive?
Let's just say things can get heated. The Azure Bears favor a very methodical, step-by-step approach, relying on those established principles, proven techniques.
While the Crimson Tigers are all about finding innovative solutions, pushing boundaries, and let's be honest, maybe bending the rules a little to get ahead.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
And this clash of styles, I can only imagine the fireworks in the classroom.
Oh, especially in those high-stakes, competitive courses.
I could just picture the tension. It's like a magical chess match, but with way higher stakes. Okay, I think we need to take a break from the intensity of the Azure Bear Crimson Tiger rivalry for a sec.
Okay, sure.
What about the other houses? How do the Azure Bears get along with the Golden Eagles and the Verdant Deer?
Well, for the Golden Eagles, it's more of a mutual respect, occasional collaboration kind of thing. They recognize each other's strengths. But their approaches to learning, to life, are just really different. Think of it like an artist needing a reliable frame maker to display their masterpiece.
Interesting analogy. So they can appreciate each other's talents, even if they don't always see eye to eye. What about the Verdant Deer? They seem like they might be more aligned with the Azure Bears, with their emphasis on community and making a positive impact.
You're right. The Azure Bears and Verdant Deer definitely have a much more collaborative relationship. They often work together on projects that benefit the wider community, both within Manaheim and out in the world.
So they're the do-gooders of Manaheim Academy, always teaming up to make the world a better place.
You could say that.
Okay.
Our sources highlight their collaboration on festivals, community events, tons of different initiatives.
I can see them working side by side, organizing charity events, planting magical gardens, just spreading good vibes wherever they go. But even with the Verdant Deer, there must be some areas of disagreement, right? They can't agree on everything.
You're right. Even the best of friends can have their differences. The Azure Bears, they tend to approach things from a more traditional rules-based perspective.
Right, of course.
And the Verdant Deer. They're all about challenging the status quo and pushing for change, even if it means disrupting the established order.
So the bears might see the deer as a little too radical, while the deer might find the bears a bit too, well, stuck in their ways.
Exactly. It's a classic clash between upholding tradition and embracing change.
So even in their most harmonious relationships, there's still that tension, that potential for conflict.
You always need a little bit of that,
Right. It's making me realize that Manaheim Academy is so much more than just a school. It's like a microcosm of society itself,
That's a great way to put it.
with all its complexities, its conflicts, but also its potential for collaboration.
It's all there. And understanding the dynamics between the houses, the rivalries, the collaborations, the individual personalities that shape each house's culture, it all adds another layer of depth to our understanding of Manaheim as a whole.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of a magical onion.
I like that.
And honestly, it's making me rethink my own approach to teamwork and collaboration. Maybe we could all use a little bit of Azure Bear structure, a dash of Golden Eagle creativity, right?
Right. Find that balance. That's the key.
That's the key. Well, we've only just begun to explore this fascinating house.
There's so much more to come.
All right, there's still so much to uncover. We've touched upon their achievements, but I'm eager to delve deeper into their legacy. What happens when these disciplined, community-oriented students graduate and head out into the wider magical world?
That's exactly what we're going to explore next. We'll delve into the lasting impact of Azure Bears on the world beyond Manaheim. Everything from diplomacy and peacemaking to, healthcare and social change.
Sounds fascinating. Can't wait to hear more about how they're shaping the magical world.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break to continue our deep dive into the captivating world of the Azure Bears.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Manaheim Academy's Azure Bears. It's amazing to think about the impact these students have even after they graduate. But before we go any further, I'm curious about something. We've talked a lot about their strengths, but every house must have its weaknesses, right? What potential pitfalls do you see for the Azure Bears?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. No house is perfect. While their dedication to tradition and order is admirable, it can sometimes make them resistant to change. And in a world that's constantly evolving, especially a magical one, that inflexibility could become a disadvantage.
So you're saying they might miss out on Opportunities for innovation because they're too focused on doing things the Azure Bear way.
Exactly. Imagine clinging to outdated spellcasting techniques while other houses are developing new, more efficient methods.
Right, it's like they're stuck in their ways.
Yeah, and they could risk falling behind if they're not careful.
That's a really good point. It's like they're so focused on building a strong foundation that they forget to look up and see how the world is changing around them. But then again, isn't there value in preserving traditions and structures?
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely a balance to be struck, honoring the past while also being open to new ideas and approaches.
It's a challenge for any organization, but especially for one so steeped in tradition like the Azure Bears. It's a delicate dance, isn't it? You need that solid foundation, but you also need to be flexible enough to adapt.
Well, I'm sure we'll uncover more about how they navigate that balance as we go deeper. But speaking of navigating challenges, I can't stop thinking about those house rivalries. You mentioned the clash between the Azure Bears and the Crimson Tigers, right?
Yeah,
Can you elaborate a bit more on that? What are the specific points of friction?
sure. So our sources highlight this particular tension point. Academics. The Azure Bears, as we discussed, they really excel in those structured theoretical subjects like history, law, magical theory.
Right, right. Makes sense. Those subjects require discipline, attention to detail, a respect for rules, classic Azure Bear strengths.
Exactly.
So where do the Crimson Tigers fit into all of this?
They often come out on top in subjects that require more abstract thinking or strategic cunning. Think battle strategy, advanced spell creation, even magical economics. Areas where there are often multiple solutions and the rules are a bit more fluid. It's like they approach magic from completely different angles. The Azure Bears, meticulous and methodical, and the Crimson Tigers, always looking for that innovative edge, even if it means pushing the boundaries a little. It sounds like a recipe for some epic classroom showdowns. What kinds of magical skills or techniques do you think each house might favor?
That's a great question. While our sources don't go into specific spells, we can speculate based on their personalities and strengths. The Azure Bears might excel at spells that require precision, control, a deep understanding of magical principles, spells with clear steps and predictable outcomes. Perhaps focused on defensive magic or rituals that maintain order and balance.
Makes sense. They thrive on structure and predictability, so their magical skills likely reflect that. What about the Crimson Tigers? Their magic must be a bit wilder, right?
I would imagine so. They might gravitate towards spells that are more experimental, adaptable, involve an element of surprise. Perhaps spells focused on offensive magic, illusions, even manipulating probability, where they can really leverage their strategic thinking and cunning to outmaneuver their opponents.
I'm already picturing these epic magical duels between Azure Bears and Crimson Tigers. They're completely different styles clashing. It would be a sight to see. But it's not always a battle, is it? Sometimes they have to work together.
You're right. Despite their fundamental differences, Azure Bears and Crimson Tigers can actually be a formidable team when they learn to leverage their different strengths. Imagine a complex, magical problem that requires both meticulous planning, A&D, a willingness to take calculated risks.
That's where this unlikely duo could really shine.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. You never know when those opposing forces might actually complement each other. It makes you wonder if those rivalries, while sometimes frustrating, actually push the students to grow and learn from each other.
Absolutely. It's all part of the Manaheim experience. Students are constantly challenged to step outside their comfort zones and expand their perspectives.
Yeah.
And this dynamic isn't just limited to academics either. Our sources also mention a rivalry on the athletic field.
Oh, this I have to hear about. What kind of sports are we talking? Is it like Quidditch, but with more sparkles?
There's definitely sparkle, I'd imagine. But while our sources don't reveal the specific sports, they do emphasize the different approaches between the Azure Bears and the Crimson Tigers. The Azure Bears, unsurprisingly, favor teamwork, strategy, and a disciplined approach to training.
And the Crimson Tigers, I'm guessing, are all about individual prowess, pushing limits, maybe even a bit of gamesmanship.
You got it. They're driven by a fierce competitive spirit. And to make things even more interesting, we've got the Golden Eagles, who bring a completely different energy to the field with their unpredictable plays and creative strategies.
Oh, wow. So it's like a three-way clash of styles.
Yeah.
The disciplined Azure Bears, the cunning Crimson Tigers, and the wild-card Golden Eagles all vying for victory. Sounds like magical sports at Manaheim are anything Becky Bear boring. But with all this focus on competition, I'm curious about how the Azure Bears interact with the more community-oriented verdant deer on the field.
That's a great question. The Azure Bears and Verdant Deer have a much more collaborative and harmonious relationship in athletics, just like they do in other areas of school life. They often excel in team-based sports that require coordination, communication, a shared sense of purpose.
So it's not always about winning for them.
Not at all. It's more about the journey, the shared effort, the sense of unity.
It's a beautiful example of how different houses can find common ground and achieve great things when they work together. Reminds us that even in a competitive environment, collaboration and support can be powerful forces.
Absolutely.
I'm really starting to see the depth of this house system. It's not just about sorting students, it's about fostering this diverse and dynamic community where students can learn from each other, challenge each other, and ultimately grow into well-rounded individuals.
Well said. It really is like a microcosm of society. All these different personalities and perspectives coming together to create something unique. Understanding these dynamics, the rivalries, the collaborations, the individual personalities that shape each house. It's all essential to understanding Manaheim Academy as a whole.
And it's a reminder that we can find those same dynamics in our own lives, in our workplaces, in our communities.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about recognizing and appreciating the strengths that different people bring to the table, finding ways to work together, even when those differences create challenges.
Exactly. But for now, let's shift our focus back to the Azure Bears. We've explored their internal dynamics, their interactions with other houses, but we've only just scratched the surface of their legacy. What happens when those disciplined, community-oriented students graduate and head out into the wider magical world?
That's the question that's been on my mind as well. What impact do Azure Bears have on society beyond the walls of Manaheim?
That's what we'll be delving into next. We'll explore the lasting impact of Azure Bears on the world, from diplomacy and peacemaking to healthcare and social change. It's a story that really showcases their dedication to using their skills and values to make a difference.
I can't wait to hear more. It's amazing to think about the ripple effects of their time at Manaheim.
It really is. So stick around, folks. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into the world of the Azure Bears.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into Manaheim Academy's Azure Bears. We've covered so much ground already, it's amazing, from their traditions and their values to their sometimes complicated relationships with the other houses. But now I'm really curious to see what happens when these Azure Bears, leave the nest. What kind of legacy do they build out there in the wider magical world?
Well, that's what we're going to unpack in this final segment. Remember those notable alumni we discussed? The peacemakers, healers, the master architect.
And of course, our coffee mogul.
Ah, yes, Jeff Hadbucks. Can't forget him. But it is fascinating to see how their Manaheim experience shapes their paths. Even someone like a coffee entrepreneur. What patterns do you see in their achievements?
Yeah, what ties it all together?
Well, their achievements aren't just like random, isolated incidents. They point to a larger trend in the Azure Bear legacy. It's all about taking those skills they honed, their sense of responsibility, dedication to community, and really using those qualities to make a difference, to make a better world, really.
Okay, I like where this is going. Can you give me some concrete examples? How are they using their unique strengths to make an impact beyond Manaheim?
Sure. Let's start with diplomacy and conflict resolution. Remember the Great Accord, those peace treaties that ended years of conflict?
Yeah.
Azure Bear alumni are very highly sought after as negotiators, mediators, ambassadors, using their skills to, well, bring harmony to the world stage.
It's like they're the magical equivalent of diplomats and peacekeepers,
Yeah.
bringing people together, finding solutions that work for everyone.
Exactly. Their ability to stay calm in tough situations, their commitment to fairness, justice, and just a real talent for finding common ground.
Right. It makes them ideal for those roles, yeah.
Absolutely. Their whole philosophy, their motto, their rituals, it all emphasizes creating harmony and unity, not just within their own house, but, on a global scale.
It's almost like they're hardwired for peacemaking.
It's in their DNA. And it goes beyond just, resolving conflicts that are already happening. Azure Bears are also very active in preventing them. They gravitate towards roles that promote understanding, cooperation, cultural exchange.
So building bridges before any walls need to be broken down, that's amazing.
That's the idea. It's a proactive approach to peacemaking.
I love that. But I mean, diplomacy can't be the only area where Azure Bears are making a difference.
Oh, right. Of course not. Their practicality and organizational skills also make them incredibly effective in areas like infrastructure development, urban planning, resource management.
That's like the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Exactly. They're the ones making sure those magical cities run smoothly, keeping the lights on, water flowing, the transportation systems on time.
It's like they're the unsung heroes of the magical world, working hard behind the scenes to make everything function.
That's a great way to put it. They might not always be in the spotlight, but their contributions are vital.
Right, right. The glue that holds it all together.
Hmm.
But what about the Azure Bears who are drawn to more, I guess, people-oriented professions?
Well, we can't forget about their impact on healthcare and social services. Remember Clara Scott McBain, the healer who created that huge network of magical hospitals?
Oh, right, yeah. The one who really championed equal access to care.
Exactly. Her legacy continues to inspire Azure Bears to this day. Many go on to pursue careers in healing, social work, community outreach.
It's like they're naturally drawn to professions where they can help others.
Absolutely. It's all about providing care, support, resources to those who need it most.
It's really inspiring to see how their values translate into such a positive impact. But I have to ask, even with the best intentions, groups can encounter obstacles. What kind of challenges do Azure Bears face as they try to leave their mark on the world?
One of their biggest challenges is navigating a world that's, well, constantly changing. It's becoming more and more complex. And their reliance on tradition and those established structures, sometimes it makes them a little slow to adapt.
It's that tension between stability and change we talked about before.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance.
Right.
Honoring their past while remaining open to new possibilities. Their success really hinges on that.
On their ability to adapt without losing sight of their core values.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that tradition and innovation aren't mutually exclusive. They can work together. The Azure Bears have a lot to offer the world, but it all depends on their willingness to grow and embrace change.
It's a powerful message for all of us, really. We could all benefit from finding that balance between honoring our roots and embracing new ideas.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, I think we've come to the end of our deep dive into the world of the Azure Bears.
Wow, time really does fly when you're exploring magical academies. But before we wrap things up, I have one final question for you, our listener. What do you think the future holds for the Azure Bears? What role will they play? What challenges will they face? And what new, innovative solutions will they bring to the table? It's something to ponder.
Absolutely. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those mental gears turning.
Consider this deep dive your starting point. There's a whole world of knowledge out there, so stay curious, fellow knowledge seekers. Until next time, may your paths be filled with magic, insight, and hey, maybe even a delicious Hadbucks latte along the way. Thanks for joining us.